Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Elise and this is 10 to Life, where we talk all things true crime. So if you're brand new and stopping by for the first time, welcome. I hope you enjoy today's case video and this channel. And if you do, and if you want to support the channel and it's a channel you want to watch again, you want to hear what we have to say, then make sure you hit that subscribe button below so that you get notified of new videos as I post them and live streams as they happen in real time with ongoing cases. And if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. You already know what it is we do here. Thank you for coming back and tuning in and for the ongoing support. So we've got some good news here, guys. Some of the new tech is finally up and running, but I still have a couple things that we gotta, tweak and fix and add. It's a little bit of a difference, but for now, at least, we are a step in the right direction. So I appreciate you guys working with me through all of these tech issues. I am also channeling my inner Gen Z today. You can kind of already see the nails. I've been doing it, but now I've got like the happy faces and just trying to be young again. So anyways, the case that we are talking about today is one that so many of you have been requesting, and I'm kind of surprised that it's not being covered in a larger way, not only by mainstream media, but also just by media in general, because it really does have all of the components for the twistiness, the darkness, the unbelievably craziness. So I'm kind of surprised more people aren't talking about it, but it's one that you guys have been asking for. So we are going to dive into all of the twisty, uncomfy details. And I want to warn you, this case, guys, it's pretty gruesome. As we get towards the end, there's a couple twists and there's some stuff that has happened to make me think this may go much deeper than what we have been notified of so far. So just hang tight as we get to that part, which that'll be at the very end. But there are going to be some bumps along the way and some really gruesome details. So I just want to give you guys a warning ahead of time. This is not an easy one to listen to. Not that many of them are. So let's jump right in. Shad Thyrian is a 24-year-old guy who lives in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He worked at his family's business with his father and his grandfather and was described as a kind, compassionate person who really enjoyed wood carving, camping, games, and hanging out with his family. Just good quality family time. But unfortunately, Shad also had a little bit of a darker side and some internal demons that he struggled with himself. He also struggled with drugs. And on February 23rd, around 3:25 a.m., he was found deceased. But he was found deceased in the most horrible, gruesome way. The only part of Shad's body that was intact and discovered was his severed head. And it was inside a bucket that was covered with a beach towel. But how did this happen? Who could have been responsible for decapitating this young man who seemingly had his entire life ahead of him? What could be the motive, and who could execute such a horrific crime? And the details that we learned and have learned so far not only are extremely unsettling and just beyond comprehension, but it tells a tale of an even darker and evil person. So let's jump right into it.
10 to Life with Elise starts right now.
At 3:25 a.m. on February 23rd, just a little less than a month ago, officers were dispatched to a house near Green Bay, Wisconsin. Kara Pankinich is Shad's mother, and she called saying that she found her son's severed head inside a bucket. Obviously, quite an uncommon call for law enforcement to receive, so they immediately went right over. And when police arrived after seeing the severed head, along with a male organ, bodily fluid, and 2 knives, the officers started looking around, and he noticed that there was dried blood on the mattress, and immediately many officers and officials began working to figure out who could have done such a horrible thing and created this bloodbath of a crime scene. The medical examiner says that the head and neck had marks that were consistent with strangulation. Tara, Shad's mother, tells them that she had woken up between 2:30 and 3 a.m. to the sound of a door being slammed, and she heard a car drive off. Now, she didn't think much of it, and she just thought that Shad's girlfriend, Taylor, was leaving the house at the time. So she notices that there was a light on downstairs in the basement, so she decides she's going to get up, turn the light off, and go and see Shad. She gets down to the basement to turn off the light, but on her way up, she sees this bucket with a towel draped over it. She moves the towel to see what's inside the bucket, and she discovers her son's head. I can't even imagine what that horrifying discovery must have been like. It probably feels like you're still half asleep and you're in the middle of a nightmare. You go to turn off the light downstairs to possibly see your son. You don't see him. You're heading back upstairs to go back to bed. You see a bucket, wondering, what the heck is this? Why is there a towel over it? You peel back the towel and boom, not only is there a human head, but it is your young son's head. How does your brain even compute what your eyes just saw? Tara said to detectives that the last time she actually laid eyes on Shad was Monday, February 21st, around 9:30 p.m., so just a day earlier. Shad's girlfriend, Taylor Schabusiness, which is such a weird last name. Every time I say it, I can't get over it. Schabusiness. Anyways, Taylor had picked him up in a van, and Taylor is a 25-year-old wife and new mom of a son. And we're going to refer to her son just as the initial M for his privacy. Now, as I said, she was a wife, and she was obviously having an affair with Shad. However, this was nothing new between her and her husband. They have dealt with a lot of this cheating stuff before, apparently. And in fact, there's a lot of people who have said that Taylor's son is actually not even her husband's baby, because her husband was in jail during an affair that she had where she conceived and birthed this child. Her baby was then taken away from her and has been in the custody of a grandparent for a while now. So Taylor and Shad had been hooking up since high school for quite some time, and she did have reportedly a pretty rough childhood. Apparently, Taylor's mother died as Taylor was a young child, and her dad reportedly violently essayed her throughout childhood. And this can easily equate to having any sort of addiction, but of course, sex addiction, but also it can, as we know, give you some deep-rooted emotional issues, trauma, possibly could lead as to why there was infidelity in her marriage and why her husband was accepting of that infidelity due to the circumstances that she had struggled with her whole life. And so we're still piecing a lot of that information together. However, a friend from childhood did describe her as a sex addict. Tara, Shad's mother, her boyfriend saw Shad and Taylor sometime Monday night into early Tuesday morning when they came back to Tara's house and went into that basement. Tara believes that she heard them in the basement throughout Tuesday, and at one point heard Taylor talking, but they weren't home for most of the day, so she couldn't quite pinpoint the timeline in which Taylor and Shad were at the house, just that she had heard them talking throughout the night, throughout the day. However, she had never officially laid eyes on them. Tara told officers that the van that Taylor was driving was now also gone, suspected to be that car that she heard drive away from the scene in the middle of the night. So 2 officers headed to Taylor's house immediately to see if they could gain any more clarity on the situation and see what was going on. They found the van in the driveway of Taylor's house and immediately started looking inside the windows. As they were looking at the van, Taylor walks out from her apartment in black sweatpants and a black sweatshirt. She stopped immediately, dead in her tracks, when she saw the police, and there was dried blood down the entire front and back of her sweatshirt, and her hands had dried blood all over them. When officers asked Taylor if she knew why they were there, her response to them was shocking, and she says to them, "Because of my warrant for my arrest." Not something that you would normally hear somebody say, especially upon officers arriving when you're literally dripping in blood. Taylor was immediately brought to the police station for questioning, and when they brought her there, the detective noticed that she had a cut on her thumb and lots of scratches on her arms. Taylor told the detective that those scratches and those cuts were self-inflicted. Not something that you could really prove right away, one way or another. So the detective starts interviewing Taylor, and he told her about Shad being found. And Taylor's response was, "That is pretty effed up," saying it in a very cavalier, nonchalant way, but she did confirm to detectives that she knew Shad. Also, what was weird is she confirmed that that van was her roommate's, who we actually believe to be Shad. And we haven't been able to confirm that, but the police report states that the roommate has the same initials as Shad. So was her roommate, did he live with her at her apartment where they picked her up? Did she live with him in the basement? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds more like maybe Shad was living with her. What is her husband still incarcerated and that's why he was living with her? We're going to get to all of this in just a minute. But in any event, she says that the van was her roommate's, and in the police report, the roommate's initials are the same as Shad's, so it's easy to deduce the fact that that is the same person, unless it's just a huge coincidence. She also confirmed to detectives that she had driven the van back from Tara's house. So while this interview is taking place, detectives are back at Tara's house and at Taylor's house, both places, looking for the rest of Shad's body, because at this point they still have only recovered his head. The detective asks Taylor where the rest of his body is, and Taylor responds that it's in the basement. He then asks her what happened, and Taylor very nonchalantly responds, "That is a very good question," and explains that she had blacked out during the entire time that it happened. But she didn't really black out, because she starts spilling some of the most horrific details we hear. So Taylor tells the detectives that her, Shad, and a friend had picked up drugs together earlier and had went back to her house on Tuesday. That the three of them had smoked marijuana and that her and Shad then decided that they were going to smoke meth. The friend left and then it was just Taylor and Shad. And Taylor says that she shot up her and Shad with trazodone before heading back over to Tara's house into the basement. About 5 minutes after getting to Tara's house, Shad reportedly brought out 2 sets of chains so they could have sexual intercourse. 1 chain for her and 1 chain for him. He allegedly put a chain around his neck, and Taylor described it as a dog collar on him. The 2 of them then used those chains and strangulation in their sexual intercourse, and this wasn't something new. They had used these chains in their acts before, according to Taylor. Taylor says that Shad was face down on the bed. She got on top of him and started pulling the chains very tight. She then says that Shad coughed up blood while she was watching his face. These are her exact words, guys. And she is saying this with no remorse and in the most nonchalant way. She then said that she was already this far, so she decided to keep going. Then she says to these officers, "Yeah, I liked it," referring to liking the process of him being strangled to death. She goes on to say that it took 3 to 5 minutes for him to die. She kept choking him because she wanted to see what it would be like and what would happen to him. I mean, guys, this sounds like a true sociopath saying he's coughing up blood, but I kept going. I wanted to see what would happen. Hi, you know what is going to happen. What are you even talking about right now? But then she says, "Then I don't remember anything. Everything was a blackout and I don't know what happened." But it doesn't quite seem like it was a blackout considering she's repeating the event play by play with her reasoning right alongside of everything that was happening. I mean, just complete insanity, guys. Then she starts asking the detectives if they knew what it was like to love something or somebody so much that you kill it. She discusses the actions that unfolded after he was already dead, and this is truly horrifying, guys, so just a little heads up here. You're going to want to pop some Tums or get a trash bag or something to throw up in because it's getting gross here. So she says that after Shad was already dead, she spent 2 to 3 hours playing with his body. Yeah, playing with him for 2 to 3 hours post-mortem. Guys, I mean, if she's going for the insanity plea, she's dead on here because this is the most insane thing I've ever heard. During this interview, the detective asks Taylor if they saw anybody when they got back to Tara's house. Taylor starts making comments saying, "Damn, the head. I can't believe I left the head though." Almost as though she's mad at herself for leaving his one body part behind. So the detective presses her again and asks her again where the rest of Shad's body is. And she tells him it's in the basement. And she tells him that it's in the basement and that the police are going to have fun trying to find all the organs as she had dismembered the body. Have fun. She's literally acting like this is a game of hide and seek. And she then mentions that there should be a foot or a leg in the minivan, though. And when they ask her how she dismembered him, she says she used knives from the kitchen. And she doesn't leave it off there. She says the bread knife worked best because of the serrated blades. She says that the knives should be in a black bag as well as the body parts that were in the basement, and that they would be in bags because she used whatever bag she could find. Now, during all of this, remember, investigators are still searching the basement at Tara's house and searching Taylor's house as well, and continuing this conversation with Taylor and the detectives as they're interviewing her. And everything at this point is adding up that Taylor is the one solely 100% responsible for Shad's murder. As all of this is unfolding, the medical examiner pays a visit to the van where he finds human body parts, including legs in a crock-pot box behind the driver's seat and other body parts that were in various bags. Also, the upper torso was located in a storage tub with a carving knife and internal organs. Now, the mattress at the scene of the crime was also significantly stained, as well as the concrete all around the bed. On top of the entertainment console was a glass pipe and a bag with light-colored powder inside, consistent with the meth that Taylor says that they were smoking. There was also an unfinished stand-up shower in the basement that had blood spatter all over it. Clearly a crime scene that there wasn't really intended to have been cleaned up very well. The body parts concealed, yes, a little bit, some taken with her in the van, but blood still on the mattress, blood on the concrete, blood in the shower. Doesn't seem like this was some master plan that had some, grandiose cleanup or even really an attempted cleanup, which makes this all the more bizarre. Taylor then tells them that the plan was for her to bring all of the body parts with her, but that she got lazy and only ended up putting the leg and the foot in the van, and that's how she forgot the head. She also says that she didn't mean to kill Shad, but that she liked choking him so much, so she would just keep on doing it. She says that she wasn't prepared and that this wasn't planned, and that she had put that bucket on the edge of the bed below Shad's head as she worked on decapitating him. She says she used that bucket and the storage tub to catch blood throughout and then dumped it in the shower, catching the blood and then just throwing the splatter into that unfinished shower. When asked if she thought it was the right thing to do, her response to detectives was, "No, but I did it anyway." Taylor was obviously charged with first-degree intentional homicide, mutilating a corpse, and third-degree SA. And Taylor, she is considered a repeater because in January of this year, she was convicted of battery or threat to a judge, prosecutor, or law enforcement member and has other previous convictions as well. In fact, she was on probation at the time that this entire horrible murder occurred. She appeared in court and is currently being held on $2 million cash bail at Brown County Jail in Wisconsin, and her next court date is March 22nd, coming up here pretty quickly. Now, the weird thing about all of this, guys, is the social media posts that fall into this case. Her husband is clearly standing by her side and thinks that she's innocent in all of this. If you just take a look here at his Facebook post saying, "I love my wife, I'm sticking by my wife." And Taylor has some weird posts herself, including one about sex addiction and calling out her other name on a Facebook post, which is T-Killa. Some really weird posts here, guys. But one of the most interesting posts to me that got me questioning so much around this case is a post that Shad had posted just a couple of days before he was killed. He posted a cryptic post, and it's unknown whether the post was in regards to Taylor and if they had had a falling out and then had a reunion, because let me just pull this up for you. The post says, "How could this happen to someone? How could you do it to someone? Goodbye. I don't like where this went." Now, this post was literally just days before this entire thing unfolded. So many people are speculating that this post was targeted at Taylor because they had a falling out saying, "How could you do this to somebody? Goodbye." But then they must have reunited and this whole thing occurred. But when I saw this, it made me wonder, is he talking about something that he witnessed Taylor do? Saying, "How could this happen to someone? How could you do this to somebody?" And also saying, "I don't like where this went." And I could be wrong, but to me, it made me think that maybe they were together and doing drugs or doing whatever, maybe engaging in intercourse with other people, who knows, and that something like this circumstance went too far and that possibly Taylor killed somebody. And then he was distancing himself, saying, I don't like where this went. It went too far. Because to me, it just didn't sound like a very personal, romantic post, like a breakup post kind of thing. But let me know what you think. So then when my mind started going there about the post, I started thinking, so could that be the motive as to why Taylor did this to Shad, aside from her saying that it was just for sick pleasure, that she couldn't stop herself, that she enjoyed it too much? Could it be because she was trying to silence him from something he had witnessed a few days earlier? Something just isn't sitting quite right with me about this post. And here's one of the biggest reasons why. Because people who know Taylor have said that she had an infatuation with Jeffrey Dahmer. And if you don't know who he is, which, P.S., you're living under a rock if you don't, he is a Wisconsin man also who murdered 17 men, most of them by strangulation, and then would dismember them. Very much like what Taylor did. So, is she a serial? Did she do this to somebody else and Shad saw it? That's why he posted that. Then she retaliates, trying to silence him because she truly is crazy. Or was this the first circumstance that she had done this? But the fact that not only the method of murder, but also the execution of dismembering the body is so similar to Jeffrey Dahmer, who Taylor apparently had an infatuation with, it's all a little bit too coincidental for me. And you know I always am counting my red flags, and I'm always saying that when there's smoke, where there's smoke, there's fire. This looks like it's way too much of a coincidence, at least in my opinion. As I mentioned too, there is skepticism on whether or not Warren, Taylor's husband, is in jail right now on unrelated charges. However, all jail searches are not showing him in their system, leading me to believe that he's not, especially since he also updated his bio on Facebook and made those posts. However, when we go back to the roommate conversation saying that if Shad was in fact the roommate, the initials were the same, they didn't live in his mother's basement. Taylor had an apartment, so would he have been a roommate with her at her apartment? And if so, was her husband living there, and was he okay with that if he wasn't incarcerated? There's still so many unanswered questions that we're trying to figure out and piece together. But this has to be not only one of the more brutal cases and more horrific crimes that I've covered and that I've ever heard of, but the fact that there was just little to no remorse. I don't even want to say little. The fact that there was no remorse from Taylor, and the fact that she just so candidly said, I couldn't stop myself. I just wanted to see what happened. I just kept going. And also didn't try to clean it up, didn't give a motive. Then the weird Facebook posts. There's so much in here that has me confused, trying to figure out, is this something where she's going to plead insanity? And many people would think she probably was insane, especially if there was no motive. Is this something where she is just a sociopath and a potential serial, or was, on the path to being a serial? Who knows? I don't know, and the fact that her husband is sticking by her, I mean, first of all, it's one thing to stick by someone through infidelity like he reportedly has done in the past. It's one thing to stick by somebody while they have a drug issue, whatever it may be. To stick by somebody who commits such a cold-blooded, heartless, gruesome, disgusting, hands-on murder is unbelievable. Also, to be advocating for her innocence and sticking by her side, it just blows my mind. Unless, of course, she has dirt on him and he had participated in certain things in the past, and so he has no choice but to stick by her side. Possibly. So what do you guys think about this case? As I mentioned, not a lot of mainstream media outlets are covering this at all. So there is little to no information, interviews, footage, anything out there. Her next court date is the 22nd, which is literally around the corner. So I'm guessing that between now and then, more information will surface, whether it is some of the discovery, the affidavits, whatever it may be. But I also think more interviews are going to pop up, whether it's from Shad's side of the family, Shad's friends who maybe he had confided in at some point, Taylor's friends, Warren's family friends. I feel like there's just going to be more things trickling up. So I guess I should say trickling down. Why did I say trickling up? So I'm going to keep a close eye on this, and I'm going to be updating you guys. So just a little warning ahead of time. This may end up becoming a series on this particular case, because I think that there is going to be a lot of information we learn. And also because I think Taylor herself is a very fascinating murderer that I'm curious to know what is going on in her mind. So I want to know at her next hearing what she says. If she says anything, I want to know if she's speaking out with her husband. There's going to be a lot of information we learn here, and I feel like I'm very fascinated with wanting to learn more about Taylor, more about her mind, her history, possibly her previous crimes that maybe we don't know about. So this may end up becoming a playlist and a series on here. So if you want to stay informed and you want to follow this case too, although I totally get if you don't because it's one of the more horrific ones, I get it. But if you want to follow along, again, just make sure you're subscribed so that you get notified of those new videos. And I will create a playlist on here too so that you can easily access this particular case in one single place. Thanks again for tuning in with me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. Please say a prayer for Shad's family. Please say a prayer that his soul is resting at peace, and like the fact that he not only endured so much pain, but then was just disposed of in such a heartless way. And the fact that she said, I decided I want to play with him for 2 to 3 hours post-mortem. Like, oh my God, guys, let's just hope and pray that the strangulation was swift and painless, and everything that came after that, he obviously was not aware of and didn't feel, because it's like you could see right now, I'm literally getting the chills thinking about it. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the coverage, and make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Please also give this video a thumbs up on your way out if you enjoyed the coverage, and leave your comments below. I'm so interested to know what it is you guys think about this case. What do you think her motive was? Do you think that that it was retaliation? Do you think that because of Shad's Facebook post, maybe he was involved in something previously with her? I want to know what you guys think about this, because I'm still trying to make sense of so many of the details. So leave those comments below, guys. All right, we will talk very soon. And until the next case, stay safe. Bye.